Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today on electric fireplaces. My name is Brian Stewart. I'm a co-founder of Electrify now, and we'll be joined by Shannon Wilson, my colleague at Electrify now, and Anastasia from Modern Blaze in just a minute. If you haven't seen one of our webinars before, Electrify Now is an all-volunteer organization. We're devoted to helping people to understand the benefits of electrifying their homes as a way to reduce carbon emissions and as a critical part of transitioning to clean, renewable energy. We also produce these in partnership with San Diego Learn. Learn is a San Diego-based workforce education and training program that's partnered with us to offer free energy efficiency and electrification webinars. Please visit the Learn website for more information. We'll put that link in the chat. So yeah, today this is one of our series of webinars on electrification that we call the Go Electric series. And you will see, that the benefits of electrification being lower energy bills, cleaner indoor air, more comfort, increased safety, and of course, lower air pollution and also carbon pollution, which is something that a lot of people care about. And electrification is one of the best things you can do to address both those issues. So today, we're talking about electric fireplaces. Why would we be talking about that? Well, actually, what you probably know from your own lives is that fireplaces are a popular feature. They've been around for a long time, obviously the old kind, but gas fireplace inserts are very popular in modern homes. And in some cases, some of the last things that people are contemplating transitioning away from, or one of the last things that keeps us attached to the grid, the gas system. And of course, burning gas or wood creates pollution. Some of that's indoor air pollution, and a lot of it's outdoor air pollution, and of course, carbon emissions. And the great thing about electric fireplaces is they provide all the warmth and charm and ambiance that fireplaces have without those downsides of those other devices. So today we're going to be talking about why electric fireplaces are superior to gas and wood. What are the types that are available? What do you need to know about them if you're thinking about bringing one of those into your own lives? How difficult are they to install? And, since there's so many options, we'll be talking about the features that are available that you should be considering when you're purchasing one of these. All right, but first let's talk a little bit about wood and gas fireplaces. All of these devices have been in our lives for a long time. What's the story with these things? Well, first of all, let's talk about wood, because a lot of people don't really understand what a major source of air pollution burning wood is, particularly in urban areas. It's one thing if you live in the country and you're using wood as a significant source of heating in your home. There are still people that do that. But in our urban areas, mostly these are devices that are used for ambiance. People like the look of fire, but it's a major source of air pollution here in Portland. There's major efforts to crack down on this and reduce the number of homes that are using this because of the terrible smoke conditions we get in the wintertime. That's common in a lot of our cities. And of course, this wood burning, technically speaking, it's carbon neutral because it grew up and absorbed all this carbon. But right now, when we're trying to reduce carbon emissions, it's just terrible that burning wood is actually more carbon intensive than burning coal even. So the more we can avoid that, the better. And then, of course, if you have a gas fireplace, we had one in our home, methane combustion produces outdoor air pollution, just like any gas burning device. It's one of those things that's sort of invisible to us. But in many places, burning gas in our homes is another of the major sources of air pollution in our cities. And of course, it's one of the major sources of carbon pollution. Any kind of methane combustion is bad for the planet. So the more we can avoid it, the better. And then both of these devices have other risks. There's ways to mitigate against this, but you have to be careful about carbon monoxide poisoning with either of these devices. They get extremely hot, so you have to be careful about pets and children getting too close to them. I remember we had a big kind of like grate we put up in front of ours when we had young kids to keep our kids from burning themselves on the hot surface. And they require maintenance, which is, it's just one of those things which it'd be nice to be able to avoid that. And of course, that's one of the reasons why electric fireplaces are so attractive. They're better in many ways. First of all, they don't create any of this outdoor air pollution we were talking about, and no indoor air pollution. This is a very clean burning. There's actually no combustion happening at all. there's very low carbon emissions, and as our grid gets cleaner and cleaner, it's lower and lower in some places. And of course, if you have renewable energy to your home through solar panels or community solar, there would be no carbon emissions from having an electric fireplace in your home. There are no hot surfaces. They create heat, but the surfaces don't get hot because the temperatures involved are quite a bit lower. It's more like a space heater, so they're safer for children and pets. There's no venting required, which means that they're easy to install. That's one of the reasons why you see them. You can put in hotels and other places like that. You can put them right under TVs, for example, without worrying about burning your television. And there's essentially no maintenance and cleanup, which means operating them is really easy. You don't have to be cleaning the flue or worried about ash or any other kind of buildup of combustion byproducts. And they're very cheap to install. We'll talk more about this later. You can do it yourself. That's what we did, or it's quite easy to do this as a retrofit later. It's one of the reasons why a lot of new homes are incorporating these from the beginning. And then finally, if you love the look of fire, but it's not hot or not cold in your room, you can opt to have the fire going, the fire effect going, the flame effect going without heat. And of course, you can adjust the amount of heat that's coming out of this. Unlike a gas fireplace or a wood fireplace, which is either all the way on or off, you have a lot more control over the temperature with these devices. All right. One of the things that people wonder about right off the bat is the flame technology, and there's no substitute for seeing one of these in real life. But basically, what you need to know about flames, there's been a lot of really good evolution in this technology, and we'll talk more about this later, also with our panelist who's got a lot of experience with it. But essentially, the two basic types that you will run across are either LEDs, where there's basically LED lights that are reflected off of various surfaces to make a flame-like effect. All the top ones in here are LEDs. And then more and more there's LCDs, which are also referred to as virtual, which are basically think of it as like a television screen where you're getting actual videotape of actual flames that are being projected, which is even more lifelike. Some people prefer that. Again, there's a cost difference here. There's a personal preference difference. So you need to kind of look around and see what works best for you. What we're showing here is just a kind of typical sort of mid-priced option of the LED variety. So this is probably the most common. And you can see right now what it's doing in this clip. It's cycling between orange flame and then a blue flame and a combination. This is just showing that you can adjust this to your preference. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But this is pretty typical of what they look like. But of course, every model is going to be slightly different. And so you want to maybe do a little research on this. There's good videos online for almost every model that you would buy to get a sense of what it is you're purchasing, or you can see them in real life. More and more showcase fireplace stores have these in their showcases. All right, so what are the types of electric fireplaces that are out there? They come in a lot of different configurations. Probably the simplest ones in terms of installation are wall mounted, where you're literally attaching these to your walls. It's great if you just don't want to spend a lot of time on installation, or maybe you're a renter and you might be moving out of this place that you're currently in. You can put it on your wall, enjoy the effects of it, and then take it with you when you leave. Probably the most common is some kind of recessed version where you're literally putting it into the wall. Some of them are very thin, so they can go in a thin wall, like a 2x4 sized wall. That's a very common way to do this. You'll also see them incorporated in mantles, which maybe it's an existing mantle, or maybe you build a custom mantle yourself. There's kits available to do that. And then oftentimes you'll see them as a fireplace insert, where you're basically pushing this into an existing fireplace that will have the look of like a gas fireplace insert. There are freestanding options that are quite cute and charming and really easy to deal with because you don't have any installation, really just plug it in. And then you see them oftentimes incorporated into TV stands or media stands. This is one version of. Sometimes it's like a enclosed case that the TV would go inside of, but this is a common and nice way to incorporate them. That's pretty easy, again, to install. They also come as individual log sets. So in this case, you would be essentially taking out the grate that exists in a say a brick fireplace or something like that, and then pushing this into the space and replacing logs with this log set that will give you the effects of fire without all the combustion. And then there's also outdoor units, which they look basically like the same ones you would put inside, but they're made to be installed outside, so they're weatherized for that specific purpose. And these devices range wildly in price. I mean, there's some, you'll see them online advertised for very low dollars, as low as $300. But then, of course, the fancier ones that have more features, can be quite a bit more expensive. And obviously, there's a range in between. But I'd say, and we'll talk to Anastasia about this, but from my experience, you can find an option well under $1,000 that's pretty amazing in terms of what it offers. Okay, and then one of the other nice things about these devices is that you can customize them to your taste to some degree. All of them are going to be slightly different, but essentially they come with some kind of media inside the fireplace enclosure, and the typical ones are either crystals. Sometimes they'll come with all of these things, and you put in what you want, or in some cases you can put in your own custom media. Like for example, in our case, we put in river stones that we had that didn't come with the fireplace, but we could put them in there. There's modern looking log sets that you can find, and some of them come with this automatically. And then there's these more traditional looks if that's something you're interested in as well. So there's lots of options on the media. And then one of the things that's really fun about these devices, because most of them are LED or LCD technology, you can change the flame effects and the flame colors and choose something that's just right for you. Kids find this really attractive. I know you give them the remote, they're going to cycle through all the flame colors because it's fun to do, but you can really create anything from a very realistic look to something that's just more interesting and sort of party-like if that's something that you want to do. So lots of options there. And then on the high end, there's these more kind of upscale features that you can find. There's these three-sided options, for example, which are much more three-dimensional. They're deeper, which means that they can accept more types of media. So these are great if you have a more kind of architectural look you're looking for. Of course, those typically are more expensive. There's water vapor flame technology, which we'll talk more about, but this is exciting because it gives a really interesting, and some people find it a much more lifelike look. It's slightly more complicated because there's water involved, but it's really enthralling visual. There's sounds that are starting to be pretty regularly provided in various options. And then, of course, these are electric devices, so you can digitally control them, you can time them, you can adjust all these things from your phone if that's something you're interested in. You can integrate it into your home kind of Wi-Fi home control system. All right, so let's talk just briefly about installation. We'll ask our panelists more about this, but essentially we talked about these wall-mounted and recessed options, which are the two most frequent. Wall mounting, literally you're bolting it onto the wall. Some of the units have really nice kind of enclosure so you don't see the attachment. You need to look into that because some of them kind of look like you've just bolted this wall, and others have these nice kind of outside enclosures that make them look more integrated. And then the recessed ones, literally what you're doing is you're cutting a hole in the wall and you're sliding this into the unit, into the wall, and attaching it to your wall. Like I said, some of them come very narrow depths, shallow depths, which are meant to be put in small walls. They come in a variety of sizes. This is what the artwork I took from one that was like a 50-inch model, but they come in all sorts of different sizes and shapes. Typically, they're 120 volts, and you can literally plug them into a receptacle or hardwire them in. There are 240 volt options as well, which provide more heat. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then there's all sorts of accessories that you can buy to help integrate them into the wall or into your enclosure. We talked about mantle kits. We showed some of those pictures. There's simple mantles like these ones that you might install just above the fireplace. There's top and bottom type surrounds, all sorts of different options here, from everything from wood to brick and stone kind of looks, depending on what sort of visual you're looking for. All right. So on the heat side, this is an electric resistance heater with a small fan in it. That's how these work. So it's very similar to the kind of heat you're going to get from a plug-in 120 volt space heater typically. So it's great for heating small areas. You know, this isn't going to provide enough heat typically to heat your whole home. And you wouldn't want to do that anyway, because electric resistance heating is more expensive than a heat pump, for example, you know, because it's not quite as efficient as a heat pump. But it's still a nice way to get really kind of localized heat. It makes your living room kind of cozier. You can adjust the temperature settings like we mentioned, which is really important, because I know with our gas furnace, our gas fireplace, when we turned it on, it just got too hot in our living room when we had to turn it off, which was kind of no fun when you want to be having the flames in your room. You can, like I said, have the flame only mode. And then typically speaking, these 120 volt models are going to provide about 4,000 BTUs, which is great for a smaller room, let's say up to 400 or 500 square feet. If you've got a large space and you're wanting to feel the heat in that large space, you can get these 240 volt models that have twice the number of heat, which again is going to be larger, work better in a larger room. All right, finally, just a couple of resources. We'll put the link in the chat here. We have this sort of quick 2-page overview fact sheet that we put together, which has a lot of the top line information that we've gone through. But if you're looking for more in-depth information, Modern Blaze, the reason we have our guest panelists here, because they have just an unbelievable website that's devoted to all sorts of information on they have a great buying guide, for example, that will give you all sorts of the key things you need to know, a lot about of what we talked about just now, but even more information with videos, etc. They also have really good information about installation, again, with videos to help you walk you through what it's really like to install one if you're interested in doing that yourself. So I highly encourage you to go to Modern Blaze. We'll put the link in the chat there. And with that, I'm going to introduce our guest panelist today, Anastasia Vankova. She's the founder, one of the founders of Modern Blaze, and it's a national internet-based fireplace and electric fireplace retailer. I think one of the best ones out there. There are a few, but this is my favorite because I just think they do the best job of providing great information. And she started this because after struggling to buy a fireplace that fit her family's needs, she decided that the best thing to do is start a company to make sure that she could get what she wants and you could get what you want in terms of selling these modern and eco-friendly electric fireplaces. So we're really excited to have Anastasia with us today. Welcome. And yes, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Brian. That was such a great presentation, and thank you for the great introduction. I feel like I have nothing else to say because you just covered it all.
Well, what we try to do is cover all the top line first, and then we'll get into the details with you and the nuances, because I know you've got so much experience here. Maybe why don't you start us off by just telling us a little bit. I gave the quick origin story of Modern Blaze, but tell us a little bit more about Modern Blaze and why you started and what you think you have to offer that people should just know about.
Sure. I started Modern Blaze because I couldn't find the fireplace for my house. I moved from Russia. We bought a fixer-upper. I still had a European taste, and the fixer-upper was in the middle of Indiana. Didn't have a chimney. I wanted a fancy European-looking fireplace. Indiana didn't have much to offer, and the nearest fireplace store was an hour and a half away. So when I got there, there was nothing to choose from. We ended up with a ventless gas fireplace. It worked. It wasn't perfect. But that was a lot of work to even figure that out. So I thought, it should be easier. It shouldn't be this hard. And 2 years later, I learned about e-commerce, and I was like, oh, I had this idea of making it easier. Maybe I should start a fireplace store online. And the rest is history. I didn't start primarily with electric fireplaces, but over the years, it became my favorite type of ventless fireplaces. And it still is probably 75% of our business. It's the best, honestly.
Wow.
There's very few downsides.
Well, thank you for starting Modern Blaze.
Yeah. And so you mentioned that, like you said, electric is 75% of your business. Is that right?
Yeah, probably around that.
Okay.
And electric fireplaces became really, really popular probably during pandemic. they've kind of always been like people knew about it, but sometimes you had to educate people, kind of like what we're doing now, right? Like, how did you know that you can have a fireplace and it's not gas? But after pandemic, I think during pandemic, everybody was doing their little projects, remodeling and stuff, right? And electric fireplaces blew up like crazy.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I've noticed that I see them more when I go, particularly like hotels and things like that. You see
Yep.
them more and more. And so I was wondering, but I was surprised to hear that they're that much of your business. That's great. What do you like when someone is asking you, well, hey, I'm thinking about putting in a electric or getting a fireplace. How do you describe to people what the benefits are for electric versus these other options that people would have available to them?
Depends who you're talking to, right? But obviously they're safe. They're much safer than any other kind of fireplace because there is no combustion, there is no air pollution. They're cool to the touch, so if you have kids or pets, they're not going to burn themselves. Even if you have the heat on, the fireplace itself stays cold. They're much more affordable to buy and install than any other type of fireplace. Even if you get the high-end model, you're still going to pay less. And for the same, I mean, the same size, same kind of feature list, let's say. And a lot of them are very like DIY friendly. And my favorite feature is probably that you can have flames without heat, because having a gas fireplace is nice. Yes, you have real flames, but it gets hot in 15 minutes and then you have to turn it off. With electric fireplace, you can have that ambience and just like literally run it all day. And even in the summer, or if you live in the hot climate, it still can use it. So I think that's probably one of the best features.
Yeah, that was certainly our experience with our gas stove. Oh, by the way, hey, I forgot to mention this, but to our audience, if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A, and we'll do our best to answer this either through the program, or we'll go to customer or to people's questions towards the end. But I forgot to mention that, so thanks.
So tell us, what are some of the features that you're most excited about with the new models that are coming out?
So the biggest downside of electric fireplaces is that the flames are not real, right? So you have flame imitation, and it has various degrees of realism. So, depending on the brand, depending on the type of electric fireplace you get, they can look more or less real. So when electric fireplaces first started out, they look kind of fake. And that is still a perception a lot of people have, that electric fireplaces look fake. Well, good news, not anymore. So that's what I'm most excited about. Every year, the top brands come out with better looking flames. And the newest type of electric fireplaces that came out probably first in like trade shows in 2022, and now they're kind of everywhere. That is virtual fireplaces, or you can call them also like LCD fireplaces. As Brian mentioned, they use, it's a different technology. So instead of using LED lights to try to mimic the look of flames, it's like an LCD screen, like your TV screen, that it plays the video of actual flames that are shot somewhere in the studio, like very high definition, super real looking. And yeah, those fireplaces look fantastic. And that's probably the most exciting feature. And obviously, now you have all of the smart features that you can connect them to your smart home. You can say, Alexa, turn on the fireplace, and like even set up the exact color of the flames you want in the app so that, to you, it looks the most real. So those are probably the most exciting ones.
So just on that topic then a little bit, I assume that that technology is more expensive than the LED. Is that right? Because I know that TV screens are getting lower and lower cost all the time, but typically what do you see in terms of price differences between an LED versus LCD model?
Definitely more expensive. I think I'll have to fact check that, but I think the virtual ones start probably at like $2,500. Because they're more, it's newer type of technology, so there is not enough competition yet to drive the price down. And they also come with like extra features. So for example, you can switch the look of the flames from, let's say, wood fire looking flames to like gas fire looking flames. And you can do over the air updates with some manufacturers. So For example, they release the new flame look or, have some new features, they can update your software.
Interesting.
Kind of like Tesla. And also crackling sound. Not all electric fireplaces have that, but if you have a wood gas or wood fire looking flames and the crackling sound, that is also adds to the realistic look. Plus, there is one manufacturer that is putting real logs in it, like actual wood. So that gives you maybe a smell, and like you're looking at the real charred logs. So your perception of the fire is more real.
Right.
So all of this comes with the cost, obviously, and drives the price.
Yeah. So with the LCD versions, the virtual ones, can you modify the media in those the same way you can with the LED type? So
yes. Okay. And with some models, it's even so easy. You just remove the glass, the front glass, and replace the media. You can put anything in there. I guess you can put your own real wood logs, right, in other models if you wanted to. It's just a matter of having enough space, which is why, so like you mentioned, there are built-in electric fireplaces that are really slim and they can fit in the 2x4 wall. But what you're sacrificing is that extra space, right? So if you want to put something real, you only have like 1.5 inches of space to put in there, which is why a lot of them come with like a slimmer logs, if you want to put logs, or just glass crystals. It still looks nice if that's how much room you have to play with. But the deeper you go, the more room you have to play with the media. You can put real logs in it. And then also, aside from just the flames, manufacturers are able to put in different lights from different angles. So like from, light up the ember bed, or the light up the canopy, and like have it more dimensional to where the fire really looks more real.
Gotcha.
We do have a question here about if you have an opinion about the type that makes the most realistic wood fire-like flames.
Yeah, the virtual will be the wood fire. They have that option, so you can switch. Usually you will be able to switch the look of the flame from like actual wood looking flame to gas. If you want just wood, like you can just stay on that setting. And yeah, if you look into something like Modern Flames Orion, they have those real wood charred logs in front of the fire, in front of the flames, and the crackling sound and the flames look like the wood burning. So that would be the one.
I think actually on your website, don't you have it organized so that if somebody is looking, like if somebody says, hey, I want a realistic wood frame, wood look, you have a sort of sorting that way on your website, don't you?
We have a collection of realistic electric fireplaces, and that includes kind of all of them, including LED, that look better than competitors, for example. Like it's just a better looking flame, but it's like different degree, and it's so subjective. Like something that looks real to me might not look real to you,
I mean, at the end of the day, it's sort of like, do you like the way it looks? I mean, I think, I think what I remind people a lot is like, hey, gas fireplaces are fake too. I mean, it's like, so I think of electric as being a different kind of fake, but you can either like the way it looks, and I think they look great, some of them, or not. So find one that looks great for you, I think I like that advice. Yeah. Well, cool. Let's see. Is there anything else that someone needs to know about brands? I know there's, a lot of different brands that are out there. And I think you have all the major players are on your website, but what's the story with brands? Are they all created equal, or some others, or how does that work?
No, I mean, if you want something that looks good, and you mentioned the budget too, by the way, I would not go too much below 1,000, depending on what you're shopping for. If you're getting like electric lock set, small, just to plug in, you can go, it can be pretty affordable, like $300-500. But if you're getting like a decent size electric fireplace, don't go too much below $1,000. I would also not recommend buying something like on Amazon that goes directly from China, because it's usually kind of like an older technology. It might not look what the pictures look like, or, unless you really like that.
Yeah.
And then for the brands, there are a handful of brands that have been around for at least 10 years or more, that are constantly innovate and lead the industry. They are all constantly competing with each other, and like they will have all of the latest features, the best looking flames. And yeah, I would say it's worth paying for that. That would be probably, I mean, obviously Dimplex is the biggest player because they're just the biggest company, but they've been lagging behind. They don't have a virtual fireplace right now for some reason. They were the first ones to come out with somewhat virtual, kind of like a virtual fireplace. It looks really, really good. It's up TV, but the downside of that fireplace is A, it's really expensive. B, it doesn't have a heat. And it also only comes in two sizes, and the flame viewing area is very narrow. So you're paying like $5,000 for something that is, small, kind of small. It doesn't have heat at all, but it looks like wood fire. So for LED flames, Gimplex is still good. Modern Flames is now leading the way with virtual fireplaces. They're really good. They're Orion series. They look beautiful. And so after that, I would say probably Dynasty is kind of a newer player. I mean, also probably 7-8 years in the industry, but they have a virtual fireplace that looks great. And their LED fireplaces look very good too, like very realistic look. And another thing like you have to pay attention to, if you're building it into the wall, you probably don't want like a massive frame around it. That kind of not the look anymore. So that frameless, clean look. All of the brands I mentioned, Modern Flames, Dynasty, and Dimplex have those, as well as other models like freestanding and wall mounted, and and the inserts as well, if you're just trying to, retrofit your fireplace, gas or wood. And what else? I would say Napoleon. Napoleon is a big brand, well known, but not all of their fireplaces look great. Their newest virtual fireplace is really good. The rest of them, maybe not. The flames are not amazing.
Right.
And then if you're looking for a budget version of like just a good looking LED fireplace that has like all of the latest features, smart features and things like that, and like really good look, look into Touchstone. They have really affordable options, but they have like all of the latest features. Their newest fireplace, Touchstone Sideline Elite Pro, even has like a crackling sound. It's still LED flames, but it comes with like it's deeper, so it has those better looking logs and different flame technology that is a little bit like it has more depth and a crackling sound. So that fireplace looks great, and it has all the smart features and everything else.
Nice. So
So what? Oh, sorry.
go ahead,
Brian.
Shannon. Go, Shannon.
Oh, I was just going to ask what advice Anastasia has for people who are shopping for an electric fireplace.
Advice. Talk to somebody, I think. I mean, do your research first. I don't know, watch some YouTube videos, read some guides, watch what the flames look like. There's a ton of videos, but then talk to somebody. You can you can give us a call, you can give somebody like us a call, and people should be able to guide you through what you need. Like, depending what kind of fireplace, what is your situation? Are you in a condo? Are you in an apartment building and you just want something wall mounted? Then we can guide you through wall mounted options. If it's something that it's like, are you looking for an insert? What is important to you? More heat or more realistic flames? Both? Is it like smart features? You just have to also pick and choose what it is that you are looking for, what is important for you. Set your budget, and then talk to somebody who can help you, or go to the website and find like filters through filters find what you're looking for.
Yeah.
You could go to a local store, but here's what usually happens. Not most of the local stores don't have a lot of electric fireplaces on display, and they don't really love selling them, like because they're not as expensive as others. So we always ask our customers of their experience, like how they found us and like what their experience was before that, share their story. And I hear a lot of stories of very similar to mine, where they go somewhere, like to a fireplace store, they drive far away and they ended up like, with a recommendation for something. And look, and then with that recommendation, they check the prices online and it ends up being double the price. So you definitely, even if you do go to a local store, double check prices online too, because now it's so easy.
Yeah. I had that same experience, when I actually had to go to California to find a store that had, and it turns out we were going to be there anyway. So to see one in real life, this was, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. So it's changed now, but I think one of the nice things about seeing them in real life is you'll get a sense of what the flames were really like. But like Anastasia's saying, most of those places, they have a very small selection. They would rather sell you a gas one because that's more expensive for them and they can charge you for installation and everything. So you got to know that up front. But it is kind of nice to see them in real life just to kind of get a sense. But you're going to find all the information you need and the options that you're looking for. It's going to be an online experience. So I think that's probably the best way to go. That may change over time as more and more people get into this with retail in real life. But for the most part, I'd say your best experience is going to be shopping online. I wanted to talk a little bit about the water vapor for a minute, because I know that's kind of, is that just like a gimmick, or what do you think? I've seen them in real life. It's pretty amazing, but it's not exactly like a flame either, but it's very three-dimensional, and it's very mesmerizing because it's real water vapor. So it's pretty cool. But what do you think about those, and what's the practicality of that?
They're not very practical. They look cool, but they're not super practical because you do have to run a water line. Now, if you actually hard plumb it and connect to a water line, then there is not much maintenance, right? Because electric fireplaces, like regular electric fireplaces, pretty much maintenance free. There is nothing you need to do, right? Like wipe them off and that's it. With water vapor, you have to clean those filters every once in a while. So there is a little bit of a maintenance. If your water is hard, especially, you probably need to pay attention to that a little bit more. And other than that, like with the installation is just a little bit more complicated than with straight up electric fireplaces. The look of the flames, I agree with you. It's not like it's very captivating. But it's not, you kind of realize it's not real flame, or maybe because I know it already. Like I've seen it in hotels. I recently saw one in Denver. It was a fire pit. So they put a fire pit in the hotel lobby. It's really big, large size. I think for that situation, it was the only option, because it's a hotel lobby, it's open flames, right? And it's like, there is nothing really you want to put there for liability purposes. So with water vapor, it's really nice. You have those three-dimensional flames and people are not going to burn themselves, right? Because they're cold to the touch. And you can make like a very large fireplace because there are cassettes you can connect together. You can build it as long as you want. And control with.
Is that I haven't seen those, but is there like a water vapor fire pit option then that somebody could put in, or is that?
There is not like a one that it's just straight out of the box. You can essentially build one. So like you build the fire pit, you get the cassette that provides the flame.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And now like the latest one is by Dimplex, Opti Mist. They have an enclosed unit with the glass in front of it. And essentially it's just like your regular built-in fireplace with those flames inside, and it has like different colors of the flame as well. It looks pretty cool.
Great.
But yeah, I mean, it just depends. It's still not your, wood fire looking flames.
Right.
So we are getting a lot of questions in the Q&A about installation, particularly around retrofitting an existing gas fireplace or wood fireplace, making it electric. So do you have any tips for people?
It's definitely most cost effective to put an electric insert instead of like ripping out the entire structure. We actually had a case study we need to publish with Modern Flames. There was an investor who bought like this apartment building, I think, and they were converting it. And they got some quotes for taking out the fireplaces versus just putting the inserts in, and it saved them, I mean, like tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't know how much. It was really it makes more sense. And then you still have a fireplace. Now, as far as tips of like what to get, you can have something as simple as the log set. They look pretty nice, but not quite as real. Or you can have the entire firebox. And, those fireboxes are designed to be fit inside of the existing fireplace openings. So oftentimes they are the proportions and the sizes that manufacturers have will fit in the fireplace opening. If you still have the chimney, you might want to close it, so there is like no draft or nothing leaking down or stuff like that. Then they will, so you fit the firebox inside of your opening, and they usually come with a trim kit of different sizes, so to cover the gaps, right? If you have any gaps left around it, or you can use your own if you want something more decorative or to fit your specific, look in your room. But it's a pretty simple process. You do need to have either an outlet or inside of that fireplace opening, or have an electrician hardwire that insert.
Okay. And what kind of person would you recommend that they reach out to for installation help? We have a couple of people who are saying they're not necessarily DIY pros, and they're just curious.
Yeah, it's just a regular contractor, ideally with the electrical license. They should be able to do it. When we had our fireplace installed, we had our carpenter install it. So it's like he was licensed electrician.
Great.
Do you have a sense for how many people install them themselves versus get them professionally installed? Do you have
a lot of people are installing them themselves. People are so handy. I definitely would not be doing it, but it's possible. I mean, and it depends, like if it's just a wall-mounted fireplace, if you can hang a TV on the wall, you can install it. Or some of those freestanding units, even like, your TV stand or a stove-looking fireplace, or the one with the mantle. They're becoming actually very popular among residential home builders, because they don't want to do any installation, but they want to sell the house with the fireplace. So they buy a fireplace with the mantle. You don't need to install it at all. You plug it in.
Right, because it's basically just freestanding. It's a
freestanding unit.
Push up against the wall, right?
Yeah. So definitely stuff like that you can install yourself. But if it's something built into the wall, or if it's an insert that is going to in the existing fireplace opening, you most likely will need help of a licensed electrician to make sure everything's done right.
I know there was a question about putting one into an existing fireplace. I mean, again, there's all sorts of options for how you do this, but the only thing you really need to do with the chimney is make sure that the vent's closed. You might want to even stuff something in there just to keep cold drafts from coming down, because you don't want any air going up the chimney. That's going to defeat the purpose of the heat that you're getting from it. But other than that, you can, there's those log sets you can push right in. We put a fireplace insert in our existing fireplace, so it kind of fills the space with the unit that basically looks like a gas fireplace. There's a lot of different type of options there, but I know that was one question. There really isn't a lot you have to do to modify the fireplace. You need to get electricity into it. That maybe sometimes is the hardest challenge. Like in our case, we had a gas fireplace insert that when we took out, there was there's an electric ignition to the gas fireplace. So basically I use that same electrical line to use for the
Nice.
the fireplace. But anyway, that's going to be a case-by-case situation. Any other questions you're seeing, Shannon, that we should there's a
there are a couple questions about if the fireplaces would need their own circuit, a dedicated
Yes.
circuit.
Ideally, you want to put it on the 15 amp dedicated circuit, just to not
that would be
trip any
ideal. Yeah.
breakers.
I mean, it's, again, think of it like a space heater, you know, like
Mhm.
everyone's probably had that experience where you plug your space heater into a 120 volt circuit and there's too many other things on it and it trips the breakers because it takes quite a bit of energy, or can when it's on high. So yeah, you got to be careful about that. Dedicated circuit would be best.
Yeah, and when you're just running the lights, like if it's just the flame that you're running, it's hardly drawing any energy at all. So you can run it 24/7 and like with all of the other stuff on and not trip any breakers. But if you have it on high heat, like you said, then you know you're at what 1500 watt, and then yeah, you plug something else in and then
Yeah,
you can trip the breaker.
there are a couple of questions I see about running them on batteries or battery powered ones.
We used to have one, but not anymore. There used to be one electric insert. It was a log set that was on the battery, and it was rechargeable. Lithium battery. It was really popular, but I don't know, like they just stopped manufacturing it.
I mean, you could run like Anastasia said, you could run the flame on a battery for a very long time, but as soon as you turn heat on, you're going to soak through batteries really fast. So I think it's a little bit impractical for that reason. It's the same reason why you can't really run a space heater off of a battery for very long. I mean, you can do it, but you're talking about, you know, you have one of those, you know, sort of as heavy a portable battery as you can carry. That's going to run a space heater or electric fireplace with the heat on for less than an hour for sure, and then you will have used the battery. So it's kind of difficult that way. If you've got like solar panels with a battery system, you could do that for sure. But again, you'll be using it. Heat is one of those things that just takes a lot of energy, so it can really absorb your battery power. All right. Any other questions? Let's see. Do you sell a lot of the 240 volt versions? I mean, there are fewer of those, aren't there?
Yeah, so many models come with both. You know, you can choose to either hardwire it or plug it into 120 or go up to 240. So to get more heat out of it, essentially.
Right.
So like the higher end brands that I mentioned many of their models would have that.
Gotcha. Well, I think we probably didn't answer everyone's questions. If you do have more, but we're getting close to the top of the hour here. So if you do have more questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can email us. We'll try to answer them for you if you didn't get your questions answered. Shannon, I think we have a little survey, don't we, that we'd love people to fill out if you have a minute. We're trying to just get feedback from people. So if you don't mind, if you have a minute, we'd love it if you'd fill out a quick survey. But yeah, I think we've answered most everything that we are seeing here. So thank you, all of you who have tuned in today. Let's see, I think we put that link in the chat to the survey. And yes, feel free to contact us if you have more questions. Anastasia, thank you so much for helping us out today. It's great to have someone with so much experience to be here on this topic. I find it's something that's really exciting because this is a relatively low cost way that you can wean yourself off of fossil fuels. That's our point of view here, and without really sacrificing anything in your daily life. And in fact, I think you'll enjoy the benefits that electric fireplaces offer. So thank you for bringing your expertise today, Anastasia. And also, I forgot to mention, I think we put links to Modern Blaze has great YouTube videos and a podcast series that's on YouTube. I think we put the link to that in the chat as well. You can find that online on modernblaze.com. But tons of information and about pretty much anything you would want to know, you can find it on Modern Blaze. So thank you, Anastasia, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.